Morning Richmond starts now.
Good Monday morning. Thanks so much for joining us for Good Morning Richmond at 6 o'clock. I'm Amy McLean.
You can call it modern-day slavery, humans sold for sex. 8 News anchor Amy McLean took a mission trip with her church to one of the top destinations for human trafficking to learn more.
Here in the streets of Pattaya, Thailand, sex is served up like dinner, with orders taken right off a menu, such as the one this man tries to shove in someone's face. The titles and pictures are too graphic to show up close, but you'll see a mouthful here along Walking Street. Welcome to Pattaya. On the surface, this is a beautiful beach resort, but by night, it's a place of violence and sexual abuse for children and women. Located on the coast 100 miles south of Bangkok, Pattaya is one of the top destinations for sex tourism, an industry that generates more than $4 billion a year in Thailand.
I think at the end of the day, it's about money.
Inside of our hotel conference room, Melina Latkova, the director of XP Children's Shelter, explains that many kids are trafficked in from poor neighboring countries like Cambodia. Our mission team from Mount Gilead Full Gospel International Ministries in Richmond is here to learn how we can make a difference. There are 14 of us, all women, and we're here with mission teams from all over the world for a week-long outreach called Operation Extreme Love Thailand. The laws against child abuse are so lenient that Pattaya has become the perfect destination for pedophiles and those addicted to child pornography.
So people who have suppressed that all their life, suddenly for $800 can come here on a plane, buy a child for 1,000 baht, which is $30, and spend an hour with that child and do whatever they want.
Children as young as 6 years old can become victims of rape, abuse, and neglect. Out of the 2.8 million sex workers in Thailand, a 2004 study shows nearly 30% of them are under the age of 18.
This is one of the darkest areas known for pedophilia and child pornography, and so we want to be a light in the darkness.
Sarah Ricketts and her family moved to Thailand from Alabama, and they're opening a safe home for kids called the Bridge Children's Center.
If your mom is a prostitute and she lives above the bar and you live with her, when mom's working, it's pretty hard to sleep. It's pretty hard to feel safe.
The Bridge Center will serve as a daytime preschool and a nighttime child care center. Our team had the chance to roll up our sleeves, pull out the paint, and get to work as the Ricketts transform this vacant building into a place full of hope and a future. We also hit the streets. Many young women from small villages come to Pattaya based on promises of a good-paying job, only to be tricked into prostitution. The bar girls, as they're called, earn about $14 a night. So with the help of translators, our team goes out and pays the bar owners, so a handful of girls do not have to work for the night. We take the young women back to our hotel and hold a party in their honor with the help of a nonprofit group called the Tamar Center. We shower them with roses, gifts, and a hot meal. They also hear from former prostitutes like 25-year-old Kung. She tells us she took a job at a bar in Pattaya to cover medical bills for her young daughter, but she didn't know she would be forced to have sex.
There came a day when I needed to sleep with the customers. Otherwise, I would lose my job. I got paid, but I was hurting and I missed my daughter.
The Tamar Center came to her rescue. They help women learn culinary and cosmetology skills so they don't have to sell their bodies for sex. Despite the feeling of hopelessness on these streets, there is a way out. I came here with my team to expose the truth about sex trafficking in Thailand, but you may be surprised to learn that it's happening in our own backyard in Virginia. Hear that part of the story in part 2 of my special report. Reporting in Thailand, Amy McLean, 8 News.
8 News anchor Amy McLean recently took a mission trip to Thailand, one of the biggest destinations for human sex trafficking.
But she discovered many girls are being forced into sexual slavery right here in the U.S. She has a local woman's story in part 2 of her special report.
Sold for sex at 14 years old.
An old man came up and asked her how much, and she gave a price, and I was handed off to him.
Holly Smith's life was never the same.
Once that exchange was over, once I had left his room, I felt like there was no looking back.
But inside her Richmond living room, nearly 20 years later, Holly is finally sharing her story. It happened in 1992, the summer before her first year of high school. She was a rebellious teen looking for someone who cared. That's when she met a guy at the mall who lured her with the promise of love, money, and a better life.
That I could travel across the country in a red Corvette, and I would get to meet famous actors. I'd go to famous cities, I'd go to famous clubs. So I ran away with him.
Within the first 12 hours of running away, Holly was in the streets of Atlantic City, forced to take on a new identity.
And this is what you have to do, and this is your new name, and this is your new birth date and your address. And I had to repeat it back to them. I didn't memorize it.
And at 14 years old, she was forced to sell her body for sex by the pimp and his female friend.
She said, not all guys want to sleep with you. She said some of them want to just talk, and none of them wanted to just talk.
Holly spent nearly 36 hours going from street corners to motel rooms with nearly a dozen men before police arrested her and brought her home.
But that 36 hours changed my life completely. Like, it separated my life into two parts, before Atlantic City and after.
And without any counseling, Holly slipped into depression, became addicted to drugs, and attempted suicide.
For almost 20 years, I've carried that experience with me, and I've always thought it was somehow my fault.
That's until she connected with a nonprofit group for help. Holly's story recently reached the national spotlight, and she's inspiring local agencies to stand up against human trafficking too.
It's the second largest criminal industry in the world, and it's in position to take #1.
She works with Sarah Pomeroy, who started the Richmond Justice Initiative back in 2009. Her group organizes human trafficking symposiums like this one held at the Richmond Police Department in October to make people aware of trafficking in our area.
Typically it starts, anywhere from like North Carolina, they'll go to Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, make a stop in Richmond, head to DC, New York, and then make that route right back.
Police say they've pinpointed about a dozen areas of activity in South Richmond and northern Chesterfield, especially along Jefferson Davis Highway.
But human trafficking is becoming even harder to spot on these streets. Local law enforcement tell me it's because traffickers are becoming more sophisticated. Rather than standing on a street corner, women are oftentimes picked up in a car and taken directly to someone's house or motel room, like an escort service.
The Richmond area is considered a target for human sex trafficking because it sits near I-95. Although there are currently no cases of children being trafficked in the area, Holly says it may be happening to a teen you know.
Nobody talked to me about it, so I wonder how many other girls are out there that have gone through this and are now just kind of going through their lives thinking they're the only ones.
For that reason, Holly is currently writing a memoir about the painful experience she endured as a teen.
So I'm hoping that through my memoir I can get my story out to more people and to let girls know that they can change their lives.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says 33% of teen runaways will become involved in prostitution within 48 hours of leaving home, just like Holly. You can check out the first chapter of her book on our website, WRIC.com, and you'll also find links to local agencies working to end human sex trafficking. Amy McLean, 8 News.
8 News anchor Amy McLean recently took the trip of a lifetime, a 10-day medical mission in Africa with her church. She took along a video camera to give us a rare glimpse of health issues in that part of the world. Here's part 1 of her special report.
Some trips change you forever. Other trips change the world. This trip did both. Welcome to Kenya.
Hello everyone, or as they say here in Swahili, Jambo. We are at Jennifer Karina's house, known as Karina's Guest House.
There are 13 of us here from the U.S. Most of us are members of Mount Gilead Full Gospel International Ministries in Richmond, and we're all a part of the Virginia-based mission group Shalom Outreach. Here at the guest house, our team is split up into small groups with 4 or 5 of us to a cottage.
Furnished beds, bathrooms with all of the normal amenities.
But we are here to help those who don't live in nice homes, those who don't have clean water to drink, those who don't know why they're sick.
On this team, we don't have all doctors and nurses. We have people that just want to be of service.
Kenya is facing a health crisis, the result of a rapidly increasing population which stands at nearly 40 million, and a lack of funding for the country's healthcare system. So we are here on a medical mission.
This is my very first missions trip. This is my very first time to Africa, my very first time to Kenya.
Our group of missionaries team up with leaders at Kenya Methodist University, commonly called KMU.
We know of your activities with the university, and I would like to take this opportunity to say you are welcome. KMU is your home.
With the school's medical staff, we prepare to hold 2 free medical clinics in small villages where some people have never seen a doctor. In fact, less than 50% of women in Kenya deliver their babies in a hospital.
The baby ends up dying on the way, or the lady ends up giving birth on the way to hospital.
Even those with access to a small hospital don't always get the basic drugs and treatment they need. That's why we've brought toiletries, clothing, and medicine from the U.S. We spend one day acting as pharmacists, taking inventory of medicine, separating pills, and packing small doses into envelopes for easy delivery. Then it's loading time. The men pack each box onto the bus and we get ready to ride up north. It's time to leave the city and hit the village. It's time to put our plan into action. It's time for the real work to begin. Coming up on Tuesday at 6, we head on to the mission field, meet the children who live in some of the poorest villages in Kenya, see the lives that are forever changed in part 2 of my medical mission report.
8 News anchor Amy McLean recently went on a 10-day medical mission to Kenya. She brought along a video camera to document her experience. Tonight she heads into the mission field. Here's part 2 of her special report.
Their smiles are contagious. Unfortunately, so are the diseases which threaten to take their young lives. Health officials in Kenya say many people die from treatable illnesses like the flu. But malaria is the #1 killer here, with 30% of the population infected.
We also have intestinal worms. Due to the community is not able to access safe and clean water.
Johnny Marithi works closely with the folks here in the village of Marimanti, the location of our first medical clinic. Our Virginia-based mission group Shalom Outreach has teamed up with the medical staff from Kenya Methodist University to provide free health services.
Where we divide ourselves into various stations depending on the problems, the diseases, and so forth.
Under tents, we set up stations for women, men, and children to see a doctor. We give out as many toothbrushes as we give hugs, and we provide this elderly man with a special gift, a cane, to help him walk so that he doesn't have to depend on a stick. Some people in this small village have never seen a doctor, and many hospitals lack basic drugs and treatment.
Even the district hospital in the area does not have surgery facilities.
That means right now, people who need surgery in the area must travel hours away on unpaved roads to a bigger city. We spent hours on this bumpy ride to Makutima for our second free clinic.
My name is Reverend Doris Cruz.
Reverend Doris Cruz.
Translators help us communicate. I rely mainly on the Swahili phrases scribbled on my notepad, but find out most people speak only their tribal language. The smallest things bring smiles, like the headscarf I give this 16-year-old girl named Patience. Kenya's Minister of Medical Services stops by the clinic, and we extend an invitation for him to come to the U.S.
Richmond, Virginia. Yes, neighbors.
We talk about ways to keep the help coming, partnering with social workers and applying for medical assistance grants. The medicine and supplies we brought may run out, but our desire to help a country in need will not.
It was wonderful to see the smiles on the faces. It was wonderful to touch them and just see them glow.
Shalom Outreach leaves this medical mission inspiring local leaders to make changes within their own communities. That's what this was all about. Reporting in Kenya, Amy McLean, 8 News.